On a Monday morning, two detectives knocked on our door and told us we were in danger. I remember staring at them through the glass, wondering why two strangers with serious faces would come looking for my family before breakfast. Then Detective Harris said 6 words that made my blood run cold. "You need to leave this house." My name's Emily Carter. I was 38 years old. And I lived with my husband, Daniel, and our 16-year-old daughter, Sophie, in a quiet neighborhood outside Chicago. Our life wasn't perfect, but I thought it was safe. I had spent years building a small interior design business while Daniel worked as an accountant. We weren't rich, but we had a comfortable home, a peaceful marriage, and plans for Sophie's future. At least, that's what I believed. That morning, Detective Harris showed me his badge while his partner, Detective Miller, kept looking toward the street. "Mrs. Carter, may we come inside?" My hands began trembling. "What's happening?" Harris lowered his voice. "Someone has been watching your family." My stomach tightened. "For how long?" 3 weeks. I immediately thought of Sophie. "Is my daughter in danger?" He exchanged a glance with Miller. "Everyone in this house is." Daniel finally came downstairs, irritated by the interruption. "What is this about?" Harris looked directly at him. "We believe someone is preparing to hurt you." Daniel's face suddenly went pale. Not shocked, not confused, afraid. And that was the moment something inside me changed. Because Daniel wasn't reacting like a man hearing terrible news for the first time. He looked like a man who already knew exactly what the detectives were talking about. I turned toward him. "Daniel, what aren't you telling me?" He opened his mouth, but before he could answer, Detective Miller placed a photograph on our kitchen table. It showed our house, taken from across the street, and in the upstairs window was a photograph of me sleeping. But the date written on the back was from 6 months earlier. Who had been watching me all this time? And why had my husband never told me? For several seconds, nobody spoke. I stared at the photograph, unable to breathe. 6 months? I whispered. "You said 3 weeks." Detective Harris nodded. "We only discovered the surveillance 3 weeks ago. But whoever took this picture had access to your home long before that." I looked at Daniel. His silence terrified me more than the photograph. "Tell me the truth." Daniel rubbed his forehead. "Emily, I was going to what?" "Tell me someone has been stalking us?" Before he could answer, Detective Miller interrupted. "Mrs. Carter, your husband isn't the only person who has been keeping secrets." He placed another photograph on the table. This one showed Daniel meeting a woman outside a hotel. My heart shattered. "Who is she?" Daniel immediately stepped forward. "It's not what you think." "Then what is it?" He couldn't answer. The woman was Laura Bennett, Daniel's former business partner. I knew her name because Daniel had once told me she disappeared after their company collapsed. But according to Detective Harris, Laura had contacted the police 2 weeks earlier. "She claimed your husband stole something from her," Harris said. Daniel's face went white. "What did I steal?" Harris looked at him. "A security drive containing financial records." I turned toward Daniel. "What records?" He finally whispered, "Money." My entire body went cold. "How much?" $3 million. I stepped backward. The husband I trusted, the man I had built my entire life around, suddenly looked like a stranger. Then Detective Miller's phone rang. He listened for 5 seconds before looking at me. "Mrs. Carter, you need to sit down." "Why?" He swallowed. "Because someone just entered your house through the back door." And then we heard footsteps coming from upstairs. The footsteps above us stopped. Nobody moved. Detective Harris immediately pulled out his weapon and signaled us to stay quiet. Detective Miller rushed toward the staircase. Daniel grabbed my arm. "Emily, you have to trust me." I pulled away. "Trust you? After everything you've hidden?" Before he could answer, a loud crash came from upstairs. Then silence. Detective Miller returned carrying a small black case. "We found this inside your daughter's bedroom." My heart dropped. "Sophie?" "She's at school," Harris said quickly. but someone had been searching through her things. Inside the case was a flash drive, several photographs, and a handwritten note. I opened the note. "Stop looking, or your family will pay." My hands shook. Daniel stared at the flash drive. "That's what Laura was looking for." I looked at him. "What is on it?" He finally told me the truth. 6 months earlier, Daniel had discovered that several wealthy clients were secretly moving millions of dollars. Through his accounting firm, he had copied evidence onto that drive because he planned to expose them, but someone found out, and that person wasn't Laura. "It was my boss," Daniel whispered. "He threatened me. He said if I went to the police, you and Sophie would disappear." I felt tears burning my eyes. "Then why did you lie to me?" "Because I thought I was protecting you." Suddenly, Detective Harris looked at the photographs. "There's something wrong." He placed them side by side. Every photograph showed our house from different angles, but one picture showed something none of us had noticed before. A black SUV parked outside. Miller zoomed in. "The license plate belongs to a vehicle registered to." He stopped. "To whom?" He looked directly at Daniel. "Your mother." I froze. Daniel's expression changed completely. "My mother died 2 years ago." Harris nodded. "That's why this is impossible." He turned the photograph over. There was another note. "The person you fear isn't the person who betrayed you." Then my phone buzzed. "Unknown number." I answered. A distorted voice whispered, "Emily, if you want your daughter alive, come to the old train station alone." My heart stopped. Because Sophie had just texted me, "Mom, someone is following me home." I nearly dropped the phone. Sophie was in danger. Detective Harris immediately took control. "Nobody is going anywhere alone." But before we could leave, my phone buzzed again. This time, it was a photo of Sophie standing outside school. Behind her was the same black SUV. I looked at Daniel. "We have to get her." We rushed to the school with the detectives. But when we arrived, Sophie was already gone. For 10 terrifying minutes, nobody knew where she was. Then Detective Miller received a message. "Found her." Sophie had secretly entered the school security office and locked herself inside. When we reached her, she ran into my arms. "I'm sorry, Mom," she cried. I didn't know who else to trust. Then she handed Harris a small envelope. "I found this in Dad's desk." Inside was a photograph of Daniel, Laura, and another man. The man was Daniel's boss, but written across the photograph were 3 words. "He started everything." The detectives finally understood. Daniel's boss had been using the company to hide millions of dollars. He had framed Laura, threatened Daniel, and hired someone to watch our family. But there was one final secret. The black SUV belonged to Daniel's mother, not because she was alive, but because her vehicle had been stolen months earlier. The person using it was Daniel's boss. With the evidence from the flash drive, photographs, and Sophie's envelope, the detectives arrested him that evening. Daniel stood beside me, crying. "I thought keeping you in the dark would protect you." I looked at him through my tears. "You almost lost me because you were afraid to trust me." For the first time in months, I felt safe. Not because the danger was gone, but because the truth was finally out. Weeks later, our family began rebuilding everything that had been broken, and I learned something I would never forget. Sometimes the person who says they are protecting you and hurt you most by hiding the truth. But if you had been in my place, would you have forgiven Daniel? Or would you have walked away forever?